Hello and welcome to Builders, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with tech leaders building products, teams and careers. I'm your host, Lee Haynes, and today I'm joined by one of the telecom industry's most accomplished leaders, Yogesh Malik. Over 3 decades, Yogesh has served as Group CTO, CEO and CTIO for some of the world's largest operators, including Tele2, Vion and Telenor, leading over 10,000 people across dozens of countries. He's also a trusted advisor, author and investor, regularly writing for Forbes and other global platforms on technology, leadership and innovation. Today he works with startups and scale-ups, helping them apply cutting-edge technologies like AI and 5G to future-proof their businesses. Yogesh, a warm welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Lee, and really, it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you so much. Let's get straight to it, shall we? Can you tell us where it all began for you? What's been your journey?
It's been fantastic. It began in India. I'm from India, as you can hear from my accent. I did my graduation in India, wanted to do something really different. And it happened so that I got a break in Tata to start learning cutting edge technologies, multiple access radio, fiber communications, and that brought me to cellular telephones. At that time in 1995, Ericsson, and still Ericsson is a very large company, a very large technology provider. So happened to go there, started doing international work. My first international work was in Canada, where designing concepts, designing rollouts, geographies, applying for various licenses, and then the journey began in rolling out networks in Brazil, doing projects in China, moving into Czech Republic, and doing from greenfield, starting rolling out the infrastructure, coverage, capacities, and then it moved towards building the next level infrastructure while making sure that the first infrastructure is monetized. And so a journey more into profitability, more into controlling cost, more into operational excellence. And that is where it became very clear, like operational excellence can only be achieved if you traverse the value chain. You understand the business processes as an expert. So I started focusing a lot of attention on business processes.
Okay.
Because business processes, once one understands and one can remove the frictions out of various parts in the business process, all the stakeholders become happy. The ones who are working with the process, but ones who are also absorbing the process. So that was a great learning journey. And then it came into operating model. Should we own or should someone else own and run for us who has a bigger efficiency and bigger scale? So this is where the models on in-source, outsource started coming up. And I traveled Bangladesh, I traveled Ukraine, I worked out of Ukraine. In Kiev, I moved to Oslo in Norway. From there back to India, launching new operating models. And then the journey began into new technologies which are going to come for connectivity, 4G, 5G, and now AI. So again, it came from business process operating model back into tech and deep tech now. So that's been the journey. It's been a lot of geography, a lot of cultures, a lot of insights from various cultures. There are different ways to do maybe the same thing, maybe the same problem, but there's not the same solution. The solution always has multiple flavors.
So very, very, well-traveled, very rich experience. Really, really exciting. To talk a bit about leadership and transformation in today's telco landscape, because you've led telecom companies through these massive transformations, right, and across continents, like we were just saying. When you look back, what are the hardest leadership lessons you've learned when steering organizations at such scale?
Yeah, and I think it's if I look back, and I would break that into three parts. The first one would be setting boundaries, setting expectations, setting goals. And it's while a professional may feel that one needs to really do everything possible to do the best, I think it's important to set the boundaries. After all, we are all human beings, and it is important that everyone knows what are the roles, what are the boundaries to be set. And if one fails to do that, and I have failed, in that case, it starts building up a lot of inefficient stress, unhealthy stress in the system. So it's a very clear lesson for me that one should be able to speak up the mind, set the boundaries, and if one can do that, that's where it all begins. The second lesson for me is it's also very important to have a must-win battle. Like for a company in transformation, they say our must-win is A, B, C. Then, as an executive, if improportional time or a large amount of time is not going to those battles, it is evident that somewhere things may fall.
Yeah.
And when the things fall, the executive, in this case it was me, would not have time. Even if I wanted, my time was already blocked somewhere else. The third lesson, and it really it comes with a lot of not only seeing different geographies but going through various cycles. It is very important that as a leader, one should not be shy to call out a refreshing which is needed in the skill set of your direct reports, of your organization. Hey, we are unprepared. That calling out becomes the leader's responsibility. No one else will call out their own weaknesses, their own areas of improvement. And to do that and not be shy in doing that is very, very important, which will help the business and actually which will help the individuals as well who are going to get refreshed and reskilled. So I think those are the couple of the lessons which I feel are applicable to me personally, and I can relate to them very easily.
Really, really good lessons. But I mean, telcos, let's face it, they operate at like the intersection of national infrastructure, there's regulation, innovation as well, which is super, super important. How do you balance bold decision making with the responsibility of reliability, serving, let's face it, millions of customers who depend on these companies' services daily, right?
Yes, and it's always I would relate that, though it may be a little philosophical. It's what is urgent, what is important, and if as a leader I ended up coming that everything which is urgent becomes important, then I think we are in a wrong zone. We are already in a wrong zone, and one should take a step, not one, maybe a couple of steps back to really gauge again, take the inventory of the situation. Because it cannot be that everything important is urgent.
Yeah, yeah.
And the bold decisions, they should be taken not in a light of urgency. Bold decisions can be important decisions which are good for the long run but need to be taken right now.
Yep. And you also touched upon these kind of the newer technologies and how they're changing the industry as well. You mentioned AI, 5G before, soon or at some point 6G, right? These are fundamentally reshaping the landscape, and with that kind of creating both opportunity but also challenges, right, for leaders like yourself. I think like the pace of innovation's been, you could say across many industries, right? But it's been quite staggering. Do you, as a leader, how do you balance the urgency of transformation and disruption with the need to kind of maintain trust, security, resilience? Because these are really high stakes environments, right?
I think I come back to where I started. Important, urgent. Trust, security, resilience, reliability, they are table stakes. I think it's almost zero tolerance.
Exactly.
If not, it is actually the memory of breaching a trust is, and I have faced that myself, becomes so onerous, and it takes a very long time, and it takes a small event to kick back into the same bad loop. The way and technologies, I have been there when there was 2G being launched, and now we are at 5G, which is not enough.
Yep.
If 6G does not come, the amount of data coming, the amount of inferences coming is going to be so huge that the customers want real time now, and they want accurate. In order to make that happen, AI is needed. Humans cannot execute the same effort. Humans need to move up in the value chain. So I think there's a whole fundamental shift going on, and as long as we can understand that shift, we can place a telco in that ecosystem, then it seems okay. If we are unable to see that, then we would look at incremental views, and a lot of leaders use this word. I am wary of when I hear those words. It's not a revolution, it's an evolution.
Yep. Yep.
But it's so broad statement. For people who dislike monotony, they think there is nothing interesting going on. For people who do not like change, they think it's an easy hideout to just stay and cruise. So it's actually a very dangerous, for lack of a better word, precarious statement to use, that, hey, we are not going to revolutionize, we just evolve and we'll cruise through the storm.
And we'll get there kind
So,
of organically.
yeah,
It will just
and
happen.
yes, yeah, maybe so. Even when a butterfly is taking a shape of a butterfly, the kind of transformation that's gone through are so many. A frog from a tadpole, there's so many. It's continuous.
Yep.
It's not like Big Bang and Big Bang and Big Bang.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing, right? I think it's that word continuous. So it's that continuous transformation, right? And with
Yes.
with AI and all of these technologies that are fundamentally changing the industry and all industries, this is the important part. So, like, how do you build a culture where transformation is not just seen as like a one-off project, but an ongoing? It's a way of working, right? It's that continuous transformation. How do you build that culture?
It's this is the question for me, who has faced organizations claiming they're running into transformation fatigue. I have never heard that word before. I was like, what does that mean? It's we have run into a org fatigue, a transformation fatigue. It never stops. And I'm like, hey, let me take a step back. That's an important reminder. What is it? And you know what it was? It was like transformation means we have to work long hours. Transformation means the current state is, lack of a better word, not suitable, actually pathetic. Transformation means it's we need to come out. The one who are going to be left in the current state, they will be in misery. So it becomes like, but it's never ending. So hence the word fatigue.
Yeah.
I think the opposite way to see that is some of the cities, and I live in Amsterdam, and I really applaud Amsterdam because I've seen some other big cities when they go through modernization, constructions, others, most of the city stops.
Right.
It looks like something going on. Airport stops. It almost like halt, you know? And while if we can build that into chunks, small chunks which can continuously keep moving, and the workload is normal, it's not like long hours, and the state is a continuous state. So I think there are some ingredients one needs to build in,
Yeah.
that it's a normal part of life. It's like the heartbeat rate. It's not a straight line, correct? Goes up and down, up and down. Of course, when it's stress, it's erratic, and that's not what we want. We want a healthy stress. We don't want that unhealthy stress. And hence, as a leader, one needs to be very clear that transformation is not one time.
Exactly. Yeah.
There will be a 7G, believe it or not. There'll be 8G, maybe XG, maybe whatever. Are we ready for that? And are we ready to retire 2G?
Yeah.
Responsibility.
And it's
I think these are the things.
yeah, exactly. I think it's an interesting point as well, because it's almost like in a company's kind of psyche, right, or their kind of way of thinking. Because let's face it, a lot of these telecom companies, they have been criticized maybe for being slower to innovate compared to, and it's not a fair comparison per se to kind of compare them to these digital native companies like your Amazon or Google or whatever, because they're obviously born in the digital era, like unlike a lot of the telecom companies who were not. But I think it's a really, really interesting point on that kind of continuation as opposed to these kind of one-off big projects where you just see a hell of a lot of disruption, right?
Yes, yes. When I think about digital native companies, life for them is not very easy either.
No.
They are on the cutting edge innovation to some extent where AI is actually a competitive force they have to win against also. While in telcos, we are talking about initial adoption. They are talking about competing products which are developed by AI, and how do you compete with that together with AI. So that's a very different dynamic. And when the telcos started using the phrase that OTTs ate our lunch or ate our dinner or whatever, I think it was an eye awakening moment for me that actually telcos are blaming themselves.
Elaborate
And
on that OTT 8R lunch or dinner.
yeah, so it looked like we are doing the heavy work building all the pipes
Right.
as telcos, 2G, 3G,
Yeah.
4G pipe, now 5G pipe.
Yeah.
All these things. And OTT is riding on that over the top services.
Yep.
But I think what we fail to understand as telcos, that they have to bring so much more customer orientation, innovation, new model thinking, new engagement ways, which is actually in a way very different than the skill set which telcos have. So, and the cycle of innovation in that digital native spheres is at a very different level than a telco.
Yep. Yep.
And I learned that from my grandmother, that when you point a finger, Yogesh, at someone, remember that the three other fingers are pointing at you. So I don't think there's any point blaming any digital native company.
No.
I think the more point for us being telcos, there is enough role, enough opportunity in the future. It is upon us as telco leaders to think through what kind of skill set, what kind of role we want in the future society, and take it from there.
Yep. And to talk a little bit about the future of telecom and its role in future society, many people see telcos as simply as infrastructure providers, right? It's fair to say. But how do you see the role of telecom evolving in shaping future societies? From smart cities to sustainable industries.
I think telecom, if anything, is not a commodity anymore. It's an essential utility.
Mm.
Without a connectivity, I think now I can even imagine the modern generation, which is generation uh, alpha, and the new generations to come. They can live without maybe electricity, but they cannot live without
Yeah,
connectivity.
I was reading it was a recent report by the World Economic Forum, I think, where it highlighted that the telecom networks are becoming as critical, or are already as critical as water and electricity for these modern economies, right? So yeah, you really
True.
hit the nail on the head, I think.
Yes, and if I see that the difference between the water, electricity, and telecom is telecom has the data flows.
Mm,
Every interaction which happens in the local geography, in the local countries, in the local domains, and they are all carried. All the data flows happen through the telecom,
mm,
whether it is fixed, whether it's mobile, whether it's so when I look at that, while water has water, electricity carries electricity, which we are using for heating, for cooling, for giving us light during the night and during the day in countries where it's needed. It telecom has a very different asset, which is the data flows.
mm,
Those data flows can help build safer societies, build good urban development zones,
mm,
can build better architecture of the future countries, better connectivity on commute path where a lot of commuting is happening, better disaster recovery mechanisms,
mm,
all because that data flows and we know how the data is going to shape. So that data trained on a good AI can give the new development. And we have seen that. I mean, there have been countries, United Arab Emirates, for example, built from scratch, one could say, into such a great hub.
mm,
uh, Netherlands, with such a high density of population,
mm.
still is able to do so much more with the land and stuff. It's and using all sources of energy is amazing to see. Airlines can become centric to the country's connectivity, and if it is carbon neutral, then we can take the things to the new level. So, how can a citizen, a country, and a society develop into a more responsible ecosystem? Telcos can really contribute a lot with the data flows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting also to see their kind of um, evolution when it comes to taking a stand on sustainability and digital, inclusion. So yeah, very, very exciting things. But you are also involved it's a company called Bytelens, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about that company and how that's working with, like, addressing different challenges that telcos are facing today?
Yes. Yeah, I've been with telcos, so I know how telcos work.
Mm,
There's a lot of emphasis on avoidance of failure. So, preparation, rigorous monitoring, 24 by 7 shifts, and making sure any alarm comes, alarms are solved.
mm,
So, it's a very intense process. While it's also becomes very expert dependent, very human dependent in many different ways. Even if machine and algorithms are there, still inferences don't come to the same level as they should.
mhm,
So hence the what I believe there's not I call that monitoring. We can monitor things, and those monitoring means they're in nature looking at the events which have happened,
mhm.
and they react to those events in a very fast manner, but the event has already happened.
Exactly, and that was going to
So
be my follow-up question on. Okay, so you're using those past events to then
to
Forecast feed
enrich the
into.
future
Yes.
routines,
Yeah.
to enrich future and predict future event based on the past.
Right. Yeah.
While I think what AI brings onto the table is a completely new equation. And that equation is not only about events happened in the past or events going to happen in the future, it's about decoding the data flows. It's about understanding the various routines which are going on. It's about connecting the dots which are not visible to the human eye, but they are connected in a way of signaling. And when you harness the power of that, which means you can integrate metrics, you can become actually from reactive to proactive and flexible. And you can actually start seeing things in a different context where it's not looking at the same uh, ecosystem or the same list of systems which are there in that geography, but you can look at the whole country and you can see how traffic is shaping, how traffic is moving. It's real time. The second thing is the distance of information accuracy from expert to the leadership increases more and more. How do we reduce that distance so that the executives don't need uh, every time subject matter experts help to answer any question they have? They can ask. For example, video. Video is 80% of the traffic on 5G and 4G. So, how is my video experience for my customers? A simple question. But that simple question can generate 20 meetings in the organization,
Yeah.
50 PowerPoints maybe, can generate a lot of discussion, whiteboarding, and here comes the result. Okay, but the result also generates three new questions. They need another 20 meetings each, another 50 PowerPoints, another day and night work. So this is an endless loop. We want to cut short that loop because the data is there. The knowledge where the data is known to a few who have traversed the value chain.
So you're
Who
you're
have,
essentially trying to democratize this data across within organizations.
yes, one that's a good way to say that, and I would add a couple of more things. Data is very precious. It's like time. Time is very precious. Data is very, very precious, like oil. And the way I say that is data should always be held by the telco.
Right.
So we are not, how do you say, SaaS companies who are taking software as a service, who are taking data out into a cloud and trying to justify that the cloud is a sovereign cloud. We think differently. We think that we have to be cloud agnostic, vendor agnostic, LLM agnostic, and we want to actually help solve problems. Problems which the telcos are facing, problems with energy, problems with video experience, problems with spikes which are coming, problems with interfaces which are not holding on together when the traffic really goes in different directions. So if an interface cannot handle the traffic, we don't want it to be blocked. We want it to stop at 80% and keep at 80% and not just go 100% and block it. So we actually want to design self-healing from design itself, intrinsically.
Fantastic. And you were talking about problems there. Often, problems are solved by, well, a combination of people
Yes,
and technology, right? You've
true.
managed global teams of thousands of people. What have you found to be the most effective ways to inspire, to motivate people through constant change. We spoke about this constant change earlier. What are your kind of tips and tricks on how to inspire and motivate?
I would say that being open to change, open to new ideas, not getting stuck or fixated on a problem with a single solution, but trying to adapt uh, and kind of involve people in whiteboarding, involve people in open sessions, ask questions, let the best argument win, refresh skills. So being open and trying to not say that learning comes only from one direction. I think learning has no bounds. So as long as I remain open, I can see that people are very, very smart. They see that too, and be consistent. So when I say these are the three must wins, they should see that Yogesh really sees
Yeah.
these three as must wins, sticks on it, make sure that he has decoded them, stays the course till the leading indicators are showing movement, and then kind of come through with that and not keep changing the must win battles. It doesn't work.
And the reason I talk about this is because there's a lot of research showing that companies with these strong people first cultures are more likely to achieve successful transformations, and we've been talking a lot about these digital transformations. So with this in mind as well, looking ahead, what skill sets will telcos and even tech teams more broadly need to stay relevant over the next 5 to 10 years, do you think?
See, unlike some of the other industries, and I would say healthcare industry is one, or medical sciences is one, there's a lot of good standards and a lot of good documentation. So AI can come rapidly into that. With the eye scan, one can detect the whole body health of a human being today. With the pulse, one can gauge a lot of the full shape of the body and the organs in there. In telcos, unfortunately, while there are a lot of standards of 3G, 4G, 5G, there's a heavy amount of customization done on business processes because everyone wanted to become successful. And there are more than 100 operators in Europe itself. While US, with a population of 330, 350 million, they have three operators.
Yeah.
So yeah, so one can imagine the amount of kind of teams which are there, and that customized knowledge is not documented. It's in the brains of the people. It's in their routines.
Yep.
It's in their spine.
And it leaves with those people when those people leave as well, right? Oftentimes.
And those people may leave, they get replaced by other people. So it's kind of undocumented knowledge, and that undocumented knowledge is also becoming a roadblock for new talent to come in. And I think for the new talent, and it may not look very attractive. It may just look glass ceiling over glass ceiling, because there is just the knowledge which is applicable in that context. So I think that is where an AI without data is like a plane without a pilot.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I think young talent needs to be a responsibility of every tech leader in telcos. And then not only to bring in young talent, how to grow the young talents and how to deal with that undocumented knowledge, not just by promoting that to important positions. And then when they leave, people are a little bit in a frantic situation to turn that mechanism around.
And how, because this is it's a really interesting point. We were talking earlier about kind of inspiring and motivating as well. But with AI and automation, all these kind of data first strategies that today's workforce are kind of focusing on, all companies are, right? Um, when you talk about this kind of lack of documentation, for example, or how can these companies prepare or best prepare employees for these new ways of working, essentially, where AI is introduced, automation is here, everything's related to these data first strategies, essentially.
I think you are right on. And here I'd give you, you might have heard about shadow AI. Shadow
Tell
AI
us.
means it's shadow AI means like I'm using AI, but I'm using that on my own risk, not really following the using just the tools that the company have given. I have my personal license for Chat GPT, for
Right,
example.
right,
I have my thing, and I'm using that to help myself.
right.
So if I look at shadow AI, and we had done that in my past jobs, what happens is you see that a lot of people use shadow AI to do stuff for them, which is consuming a lot of time. So, when a report on shadow AI should be given to the management committee of a telco, of a company, it should, rather than making into a policy discussion, maybe it is the best inference one can gather to say that, okay, this shows us where the heavy workloads are, where work life balance is being challenged for our employees. How about making the new tech leaders that we give them instruments and tools, undocumented, can become documented using AI to some extent, and then the remainder of that 20% to complete, that is where we put in extra resources to complete that. I think one needs to think more insightful ways and use those signals and inputs. Like my son would say, he actually told me yesterday that daddy, he was doing his homework, and that why do people just go to chat gpt and cut and paste? Why can't they take chat gpt as an input, they go through it, and then they make their own description? I said, well, thank you. That's a great thing that you're thinking like this, because this will be more and more. I think AI is a great tool, but we should not lose ourselves into that. And we as human beings have a great value system, and we should put to use.
What's your view then on the agentic kind of workflow, where one AI is doing something and the next one is, the next part of the process is AI, and
Yes, and I think it's agentic AI. I love the technology. I think agentic AI can do a lot of things like dipping into various databases and correlating them. It's a very heavy, onerous task and prone to a lot of inaccuracies. If one agent can do the collection, the other agent can do the checks, and then a human can look at that and order and reorder agents, I think we can improve the output.
yep. Um, and also, I think I really want to kind of have a bit of time to kind of get your um, advice, kind of these personal reflections over your kind of years as CEO, group CTO, like I said, CTIO, all of these different roles that you've had. Looking across these experiences, what would you say is the common kind of leadership philosophy that kind of ties it all together for you? Is there one?
I used to think, and I still think, half glass full is half glass full. It has opportunity to have more. It can still satisfy what we have. So have gratitude. Um, yeah,
It's a nice
yeah.
one, really, really nice one. And more advice if you were advising a young engineer or a future leader entering telecom today, what would you tell them to focus on to stay relevant for the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years? I want to say beyond 10 years, but yeah, I freak out when I think beyond 10 years.
I think the first message would be that this is as deep as one can get. So they are, if they really want to go deep, telco is one of the best industries. One of the best industries where you can touch every pixel, where you can touch every data byte, where you can touch everything which is going. It's almost like you would be in an oil platform in the middle of the sea, knowing how drilling is done, how plumbing is done, and how refining is done. I mean, how what better job can one have? So, absolutely, if one wants to go deep, there is no end to the depth. There's no end to depth in technology, on customer experience, and problem solving. So I think that's one. I would also urge do not get frustrated with the glass ceilings. You'll see a lot on the glass corridors. You may think everything is simple, everything you can see, but there's a lot of smoke behind the glass. So don't get fixated. Do not try to run fast and run conquer it. It'll come. It'll come. The third message I would give is nothing is cast in concrete. So the telco roles are changing dramatically. Now satellites are coming in. Earlier, satellites were like far away, they were like not so close to the Earth orbit. Now we are talking about lower Earth orbit. Satellites are a part of providing connectivity. Now they are being tested in bigger territories, like where the geography is vast. But soon it would be for connectivity. So the telcos may go into deeper connectivity, into smart cities, smart industries. So roles may change over time. So nothing is cast in concrete. So as long as one has that open mindset, the growth is unprecedented. And one should look at telco as the root. You're working at the grassroots, which means you can go into data centers, you can go into industries of digital natives, you can go into societal roles, you can go into ministries, you can go into education, you can thrive from management, what have you. So immense opportunities, but don't get tired with the first year that there's too much of noise around.
Good, very, very good advice. And finally, from me, I'd like to get to your take on what excites you most about the future of telecom and its potential to shape societies for the better. I'd like to split this into two kind of look at it at two angles, basically, more on like a general level, but then also more on any specific technologies that might be underpinning these opportunities or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. So on the overall level, I think telco is at the center of every transformation. As I mentioned, with the latest in AI without data
Yeah.
uh, is really not that useful. So for me, data becomes so centric to do a better job, to do a meaningful job, and to do it with super accuracy. So I think telco has a lot of motivation. It has societal safety. It has societal expansion, and it has actually a responsible youth growth as well, which it can contribute to. Um, Technologies wise, I think AI is a technology.
Yep.
AI is not yesterday. AI is here. AI is there to remain. I have heard a lot of that work with AI, don't stop AI. And I think while those are good things, I think one needs to take a deeper look into what does one use AI for? How does AI really come to form its opinion? uh, when Gemini works or when Llama works or when other, what are they really worth? So become curious into the next level. And I think that is where I am. The product we are designing on three principles. One principle, agnostic. Second principle, easy to ask, easy to integrate, easy to do. Third principle, excellence, which is a pursuit. It's not a state. It's a pursuit of continuous excellence. We
Yeah.
want to gain that in our model accuracy, in our customer approach. That's what we want to base our company on.
Really, really nice. And Yogesh, is there anything you'd like to add before I wrap up here?
Now, I think I've said it all. I really admire your patience to have this. I enjoyed.
It was
Thank you.
really, really nice. So thank you so much for joining, sharing your insights, a lot on leadership, the future of telecom, the role of people and skills, and all of that in shaping, tomorrow's digital society. So really, really nice for you to join us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, follow Builders wherever you get your podcasts. Ratings and reviews help us reach more curious minds like you. Until next time, keep on innovating and keep on building. We'll see you soon.